Imagine you're going in for a job interview, and by the time you walk out, you've unintentionally started World War III, but with dragons. Well, that is basically the plot of S.F. Williamson's A Language of Dragons. I had a long flight over the weekend, and I was just about to finish the book I was reading previously, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. It's very good, probably the best Star Wars book I've read ever. Check it out. And I had 16 and a half hours left to my flight, so I found this one at an airport in Johannesburg. The only airport in Johannesburg. Maybe there's more, but like the main one. I was at the main airport in Johannesburg, and I went to a bookstore. Also, I was at a lounge the whole time with a bartender that had no idea how to make an espresso martini. But that's beside the point. I checked this one out, and I read it on the plane. Sorry to the people who were bothered by my overhead light because it was an overnight flight. I can't sleep on planes, and it's not my fault. Anyway, that's not important. In A Language of Dragons, we follow our protagonist, Vivian Featherswallow. All the names in this book are kind of weird, but whatever. We go with it. Dragons have been a part of our world since the dawn of time. They're members of society and everything, but in recent years after World War I and a follow-up war with dragons, they've kind of been segregated. And there is a new class system in London. And there are also rebels that don't like the current peace agreement. Vivian is a do-gooder. She follows the rules to a T. She's always looking out for her best interests in terms of what makes the government happy. And even when it comes to her friends and family having opposing views, she is very stuck in her ways. But when it turns out that her parents are rebels against the establishment and are imprisoned, she gets a little carried away and helps a dragon destroy the Prime Minister's office. Well, you know, these things happen. In order to negotiate the safety of her family and herself, she takes a job as a codebreaker for the government, trying to decipher this secret dragon language. And along her journey, she realized that maybe the government isn't your friend. For this review, I'm going to start out with the good, because there is a lot of good in this book. If you saw my previous videos on Four Ruined Realms and Fourth Wing, you will probably understand why I like this book a lot more than I expected to. While it does fall into typical modern storytelling tropes, the way it presents them separates this book from everything by Red Tower. Except for Heavenbreaker. That book, like I said a million times, phenomenal. And the biggest strength in this book is the protagonist, Vivian. There is none of that annoying girl boss. She doesn't have this higher-than-thou attitude about her. She's not perfect at everything. She is an extremely flawed person with a moral compass that she is struggling to decipher. This book's greatest strength is that it provides so many avenues of right, but each one of them always comes with so much baggage. No matter what choice Vivian makes in this book, somebody will get hurt in it, and navigating that is an impossible task. It makes every choice she makes feel like it has so much weight to it. It's the entire driving force of the book. She has so much guilt on her conscience, and like 90% of it is constantly facing down that guilt with these decisions, trying to figure out if you can be forgiven, if you ever deserve a second chance. It's very, very compelling character stuff. And none of this comes about through acting. There's very little action in this book. A lot of it revolves around code breaking and linguistics. But it also helps separate this book from others in its genre, because it's not an action-heavy high fantasy with dragons. It's a linguistics drama with dragons. It takes a whole different approach to the dragon genre. Now, I feel like I'm giving this really high praise, and it definitely deserves praise, yet this book is no masterpiece. So we're going to start to get into the negatives and just middle-of-the-road stuff right now. While this book looks kind of thick, it's really not. It's large print, a lot of dead space on the pages. But there is also a lot of dead space in the storytelling in a lot of ways. It's pretty shallow in everything except for the Vivian's character. Vivian's character is great. Her character journey is great. I like it. I might even say that I love it. No, that's a lie. I don't love it. It's very good. Her character journey is a 7 out of 10 alone. When I say it's shallow, this isn't so much an issue I have with the book, but again, modern literature, where a lot of the statements it's making are extremely surface level and lack any sense of subtlety. Messaging is a very difficult thing to do in storytelling. When you're presented the message at the very beginning, it takes all the entertainment of the story unraveling out of it. When I know from start to finish exactly what I'm in for, I'm way less interested in it. I may agree with the message you're presenting, but there's no fun in this. And this book has so much on the nose dialogue and situations. It's supposed to be the 1920s, and it feels like it's written today. The way it talks about evil white men and segregation and all this class stuff that is presented in modern day talking points. I know there's dragons, but it says on the back, it's London 1923. So even if you're going to do fantasy elements, if you're trying to base it in some sense of real world timeline, you still have to make an effort to stick with that. For example, this is my book. It's called Empire of the Void. I think it's a pretty good book. I highly recommend you read it. It kicks off in the late 1950s. So I have tried to make a very intentional effort to make my characters speak like it's the late 1950s, early 1960s, and not 2024. Those anachronisms are very important besides just the actual words that are used, but how people talk about subjects. And most people in 1920 aren't going to be talking like your typical college liberal. Stuff like that has to be woven into the story naturally, and it cannot be just thrown at the audience. It has to be brought up less like a college lecture and more like a round table. Let the audience sit in it for a while. Let them see opposing viewpoints, which this book does do very well. It presents a lot of different sides of the arguments, which is, again, Vivian's whole character arc. Seeing every side, weighing the pros and the cons of everything. So it's so interesting to me that the book does that so well with only one character, but totally fumbles every other message it's trying to share with the audience by presenting it so blatantly. And stuff like that really takes you out of the book. It's not enough to be bad, but it's pretty annoying. There was some other stuff, some other anachronisms that I thought were anachronisms, but it definitely inspired me to actually do my homework. I don't know if all of it was accurate to the 1920s, and I'm still not even sure why this book is based in 1920 so intentionally, but whatever. It works, it works. This book ends not on a cliffhanger, but definitely opening the door for a sequel, and according to Goodreads, there is a sequel on the way. That's not really a spoiler. Every book nowadays is written to be franchised. But would I be excited about the next one? Maybe. I think A Language of Dragons is a solid 3 out of 5 stars. I definitely enjoyed this read. I have my issues with it, but there was a lot that compelled me to keep reading. I don't know if it's compelling enough to pick up the next book, but we'll see how I feel when it comes out. Anyway, buy my book. Buy this one too if you want. Link in the description.